Hi. Okay. So I took a minute, sort of thought about stuff, like sent awkwardly long text message to my student. And because I wanted to, so like I immediately started thinking of like where this essay needs to go and like oh my gosh, my brother's dog who lives with us now, I don't know, is being weird. What was I saying? Oh, like how do I advise her, right? Like now I'm like, okay, so how do I need to comment this essay in a way that's going to be like most helpful for her? And like right now it's like, since her grammar is pretty good, I'm going to not go into the nitty gritty of that because it's still going to be a draft. It'll be evolving. And I'm sure like as she goes into it, like she'll catch it for herself. But I want to think like big picture. And so like she starts off like describing, characterizing, setting the status, and then setting the setting, I guess. Anyway, establishing the scene. And then she has that powerful mic drop last sentence of he molded us into strong, passionate women. So right away, I'm like, okay, I know what the story is about and I know where it's going. But I think that, I mean, usually I'm like, go for a more catchy, intriguing intro sentence, but I sort of just like the style of like how straightforward it's told. So like that's when writing is not just about grammar and language, it's also about style and like what is this student's style of writing, as it were. Um, and it's very like journalistic, right? So we don't want to like some of my other students are very flowery and like full of descriptions with their language, and so their essays go in a different direction because, and this is sort of why like this is, I mean, it's obviously this is a luxury that I'm able to do this in depth with just 30 of you guys this year because I'm not teaching. Normally, like an English teacher, like there's like I wish that I had been able to give you guys this kind of individualized attention. Because like this is, for me, this is the only way that you really learn how to write well. And like writing is such an important part of who you are and how you think of yourself and like how you think, really literally, that it deserves to be nourished as much as possible. But as you guys know, there's like always a strain on resources. But this is this is a luxury that I get to even spend time with a student thinking about what their writing style is, right? This doesn't happen all the time. Mostly because like I don't have enough time in my day to do this level of in-depth editing for each and every one of my students. Like normally I had 123 students last semester. And so, I mean, I only had you guys for 2 months. It was crazy. So like this is something that I think that you have to do if you're going to teach writing. And hopefully I'm knocking some flies, hopefully this video will be helpful to more than just Jennessy. Yeah, so let's see. Okay, he molded us into strong, passionate women. So this is where, oh, right. Okay, so this paragraph, this is a paragraph where she gives the details of like, who he is. And then I added in the suggestion of wanting to show, not tell, an example. And then, okay, next paragraph. During that time, I was 6 years old and had no understanding of what was going on. Things rapidly changed for me as my mother's mental health declined. My siblings and I moved in with my dad in a small basement apartment while my mom was in the hospital. Throughout the whole year she has been in the hospital, the disease caused her to forget who my siblings and I are. So now that we have like more time, let's go and like comment so that to like give her some feedback. I highlighted this here because, and like this is by the way a mistake I 100% still make. Like some of my sentences can be a paragraph long if I let them. It's like the number one thing that I spend all my time doing when I'm editing is chopping up my writing into like manageable sentences. So like no shade and no shame in this. And it's hard to catch when you are so caught up telling your story. And like it's just one of those tedious things that like eventually, I don't know, it's why you have to edit with the English language. Maybe it's easier to edit in other languages because like the grammar isn't such a worry, but nevertheless, here we are dealing with this tricky language. Okay, I highlighted this here because it's a run on sentence and sort of is confusing, which that is confusing. Anyway, and sort of is confusing. I think because it was so profound to write that it was easy to get, to let like the detail, to let the annoying details of grammar in the way. So now with editing, it's time to start working on how your sentences are formed and say, and tweaking it so that it is as easy and pleasurable for the reader to read as possible. After all, they're deciding whether or not to let you in or give you a scholarship. Yeah, so like basically just we'll start looking for things that like really could use more attention, and I'm just going to highlight them. Later, my dad was given full custody of my siblings and I. My father took on the responsibility of raising us. He got us ready for school and made sure we had everything we needed. Okay. And like, right, this was sort of what I noticed in the last video. Like, this was the showing that I was asking for earlier. But I think show it throughout, because you always want to deliver information in like a variety of ways, like showing and then telling, and like that way by making it differentiated, the reader's more engaged, right? So are you. It's just like a diverse array of ways of expressing things. Okay, I'm gonna stop being philosophical. Yes. Okay. So I think again, let's work on refining the language here and making it clearer, and more impactful / immediate. Perhaps go into a specific moment, like what was, actually, this is a question I want to know the answer to. What was that menstruation conversation with your dad like? Like it's gotta have been super awkward. Like there's a story there, right? So maybe actually that's a way that she can show us all of these characteristics that she's told us about so far, right? And then that makes it, it makes it more profound. It makes it more engaging. It makes it better. Yeah, so there's a story there, and like maybe that can be the one you tell to expand out on one specific moment that really shows the reader who your dad is as a person / it's entertaining, right? Like who said who said that like profound, deep, serious things can't also be entertaining? Because that's life, like, right? And like, it's a good story. Like, it's just so silly. Like, I'm cringing at the thought my dad, of my dad giving me the menstruation talk when I was 12. Like, oh my God, it was like awkward enough with my mother. So like, that maybe just paint that whole picture, right? Of like, maybe start there. And like, that's a story that pulls the reader in, is like this image of this strong Hispanic man like giving like his little daughters, like, I'm envisioning that you guys were all in frilly dresses, but you know, just say what you were wearing. And you know, like, it's just there's just a lot of fun places to go with that. So I'm like really excited about this. I'm excited about like watching the evolution of Jennessy and this essay. So, witnessing my father's struggles and seeing how difficult it was for him to raise three girls motivated me to want a better life for myself. Yes, yeah. Okay, so like, honestly, like, maybe like fix these. Yeah, like this paragraph looks pretty good. Because it's like, it's probably going to, I mean, I think I have a hunch that this is too many words, but I want to keep editing it all the way through because I think it's an important story, and like, maybe we can find some team, I don't know. I just think it's an important story. I just want to read the story, frankly. That's all. It's sort of greedy. I just want to find out what happens. So yes, this paragraph looks pretty good. Just watch out for the too long sentences thing and revising / tweaking for clarity. Through them, I was taught about the beauty. Oh, right. So also, let me just point out, this is a really great example of a transition last sentence, which is always really important and something that like, it just takes a while to get the knack of. But in general, like when you finish a paragraph and like are about to go into the next one, it's sort of nice to have, because like, okay, first let's back up. A paragraph has one idea each, and like I don't do that during my first writing either. But like basically, a paragraph contains one idea that you explain fully, and then the next paragraph is different, right? So you want to have like something that bridges that divide between like what you said here and what you're going to say in this next paragraph, so that the reader is not like, wait, what? What is she talking about? Oh, she's talking about her sisters. She's talking about her sisters. So here, that's what she's done here. Like, they taught me the value. And like, I think that they're using the word they too many times and it's too vague. So I didn't catch this at first. So again, like, this is a way she had all the bones there, just needed a little bit of tweaking to make it like, mwah. So I think that, yeah, so she needs to be more specific with the they here. Say who, let's work on making this more direct, but otherwise great transition last sentence into next paragraph. So now we know she's talking about her sisters. Through them, say who them were, because it's like too many. Okay. Through them, I was taught about the beauty in our circumstances. Oh, so this is like building up to her last paragraph, right? And I think like this looks like something that we can easily trim on to make room for the descriptions and the refining aspects, the next step, because that's when you're editing something that has to be exactly a certain amount of words, that's like sort of what you have to do. And it's like, it's painful to kill your darlings, but usually most of the time there's a lot of sentences that you don't really need, that aren't serving you, and that at the time you thought that they were serving you, but they're not. So that's also what editing is about. Um, okay, so through them, I learned about the beauty in the circumstances. I want, even though my family, so like I want to like better connection between these two thoughts. Strengthen the connection between these two thoughts. Because I think once it's more direct, it'll be even more profound. Okay. Even though my family faced a lot, I was taught that I was, see, like this, it's clunky. See how many words are being used? Just going in and like trimming the words can also cut down on words. I mean, cut down on words. Also repetitive. The pain and the hardships I faced are my reason I want to improve. And for that, I am grateful that my life hasn't been perfect. I am now able to appreciate things. Oops, that needs a space, in a different light. Okay, so got some run-on sentences again, but we know that's her style, so like we just have to curb it a little bit. And I think that this must have been such a profound thing to reach in order to be able to write about it. So just being able to say this is quite profound. And like now it's time to go in and make it said better. But yeah, so like this whole thing, it feels a little choppy, and like I think we can improve on it a little bit. Although not being raised by my mother traumatized me, it became my drive. It pushed me, and as the years went by, I excelled in school and continued to push myself to be involved in extracurricular activities, creating art, and discovering new things about myself. I realized that these growing pains were necessary and made me want success even more. Yeah, so the same thing. One, I think these two can be mushed into the same paragraph, actually, and then we're going to condense it a little bit. And the other thing that's to watch out for, that I probably should have mentioned before the middle of the second video, is like this victim narrative. Like like if you are a kid who like grew up with difficulties, like shit was hard for you. White people usually don't like to hear about it. And they usually like are, because it makes them feel uncomfortable because they feel guilty. Just takes one to know one. And so when you are writing these personal statements, it's important to keep in mind that the readers of them are like white middle-aged ladies who may or may not have any exposure to a race different than their own. So they rely on a lot of stereotypes about urban kids, or kids from urban high schools, that are unfortunately so incorrect. It's woeful, but we also never want to play into that stereotype, right? So that's why, unfortunately, white people make you police your narratives because it can get too victim-y. But there's such a thing as being too victim-y, because the reality of it is you're a survivor. Like, you can either choose to remain a victim once it's over, or you can become a survivor. And victims is the only thing I'll ever agree with this like skinny Republican lady named Ann Coulter about, is victims make victims, right? Like when you've been hurt and stuff and you want to remain a victim, you will actually weirdly end up hurting somebody else because like you have pain about it. Anyway, I'm getting way too therapist-y, but yes, so you don't want to go into the self-pitying mode. You want to show that you have agency and that you're like more than what people might think of you, and you're more than your circumstances, right? Because that's what going to college is all about. All right. So, but I don't think that she's doing that here. I just wanted to, like, as an important aside, say that. Because I think, and the reason why she didn't do it is because she has this last paragraph and she's like, you know what, I'm kind of glad I went through all this because like it's shaped me into who I am, which is, that really resonates with me, even though like our lives and our experiences growing up were very different, because like I like also I'm really weirdly, I've reached a point in my life where I'm weirdly grateful for all of the trauma that I went through too, because I like who it made me. Like it made me the teacher that I am today. So like, and the writer that I am today. So I totally feel you, Jennessy. And like, that's the beautiful thing. And that is exactly what college admissions officers are looking for. They are looking for somebody who has demonstrated personal growth, overcome a hardship. And that's, I mean, that's a literal prompt in the Common Apps, at least. So, like, yeah, this is great. Because she's like, look at all this shit I went through, but you know what? I'm glad it happened because it made me who I am. Like, that's a fucking badass thing to say, especially when you're like, what, 17? Like, I don't know. I feel like I just got here to that like stage in my life and it took me like 30, 40 years. So like light years ahead of me. But yeah, you know, I think like we're going to work on the wording a little bit more and she's going to work on getting more specific with her language. But I think I'm going to end the video because I think, I don't know, I think hopefully you've learned something. And if not, nobody will see this video in the light of day. So it was neither here nor there. All right. Bye, you guys.